Welcome back to Dry Arabia for another casted game, La Mappa Classica. On the north side in the yellow we have Gully as the Malians, and on the south side in the orange we have Falcon as the Abbasid Dynasty. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and both of these civilizations are very popular at the moment. Abbasid particularly strong with their eco wing and the flexibility that they have, and Malians getting the change to their Farimba garrison, which has allowed them to get lots of extra units. So we're going to see exactly how both of these guys are doing it. Now, Gully is building up his pit mines going all the way round, and interestingly, this spawn I think is quite potentially good, potentially bad. Depends on what he goes for. Having you both of your gold mines together could be a blessing or a curse. If he decided to go for the defensive landmark, the one that shoots stuff, you know which one I mean, the one that also buffs trade, if he stuck that here, that would defend that quite nicely, and also would give him access to those javelin emplacements as well, which could be quite an interesting play. But also, this is going to be a bit like HRE's Arkan Chapel. Falcon is going to know exactly where to place his army to deny all of those key resources, because if he can defend this position and keep Gully away from that gold, it's really going to make his life difficult, because the other gold is also on this side as well. So obviously thinking about your positioning, if you're here, then you're going to be blocking that. And the other one is all the way over in this corner and blocked by the wood line, so you can't even get a full pit mine surround. So at the moment, the spawn is not necessarily in Gully's favour. Looking at Falcon's side, he's also got 3 front gold, so all the gold over here, but the wood lines are spawned really well for him, that a little short wall over here with these 4 little sheep would secure up this gold, also would give him some back berries and some back stone as well. So this actually could be a really nice defensible position here if Falcon decides to play it a little more boomy. Let's take a look at the scouting path as we follow Gully's scout around. He's probably going to miss those 2 over there unless he's paying attention, but he's already got 5 in the bank, but those 2 are going to be left there for Falcon to pick up a little bit later. But interesting, he's gone kind of to the center and then round the back of Falcon's base, which actually is one way that you can scout it. Often you would see them go around and do their own half, but this is obviously paying off pretty well for him. If he'd grabbed those other extra sheep, that would have been really bad for Falcon. But as we can switch over to him, then we can see that Falcon actually has 5, and he's done exactly the same thing and gone around Gully's base. So it looks like actually there's still plenty of sheep up for offer, up for grabs, up for everything. And if we take a little look, interestingly, Gully's gone for the Mansa Quarry. Now, I really thought he would go for the other landmark in this case so he could defend this position, but this is going to allow him a little bit more flexibility if he's going for just the cow boom, or if he decides he wants to go for a second TC, because obviously the Malians, if we take a little look at their side, their TC costs gold and not stone, so having your gold here and your Mansa Quarry might give him that possibility to drop a TC as well. Over on the other side, we can see that Falcon is going for the eco wing, and he's already on the stone getting ready to drop down those TCs. So are we going to see 2, 3, 12? Let's see exactly what he can pull off. And we can't see the network, unfortunately, but obviously he wants to make sure he gets those 10 buildings connected. So that's going to, if you see there now, has jumped up to 6 because the mining camp and the house are both all connected. And as we can see from the split at the top, we've got 6 on wood and we've almost got 6 on stone, so it looks like we're going to be seeing a TC drop. But where is it going to go? That's the question. Age up come through for both, Fertile Crescent in the bag, and we're waiting for fresh foodstuffs to come in. Just a couple of resources shy of that, but that will be coming in any second. Now, in terms of TC placement, he could go super safe at the back over here. That's one option. He could go a little bit more greedy and drop it all the way over here, or just, I guess, against the stone and the wood line there at the front could work. Maybe the berries. Depends how greedy he wants to be. There's a lot of food at the front he could push into it, but obviously the more exposed it is, the harder it is to defend. But we're almost there on the resources. We'll check back with Falcon in a second, and we'll go over here. We can see we have the stable up for Gully, and he's going for warrior scouts or warrior scouts depending on where you're from, and he's dropping that second pit. So I think he wants to get some units that can defend this and maybe give Falcon a little bit of aggro. And there we go, he is being a bit aggressive with this TC placement because he's clearly trying to grab up this food, and doing a nice little bit of micro here to save those villagers, because the scouts now can do quite a bit of damage. So circling those guys around, making sure that none of them go down and bite the dust to the scout. That TC is going to go up, and let's see whether Falcon can actually micro to make sure that none of his villagers go down. This is something I need to definitely learn myself from, because I am not able to micro that well enough. But now Gully is doing exactly the right thing, spreading out that deer and just going to be causing Falcon a few issues. So now he's obviously trying to take out the deer as well. A huge amount of villagers going on to the gold and then shifting over onto the berries. There we go, that makes a little bit more sense. So now he's got that second TC, and his eco is going to start booming away, only going to be doing the 2 TC, and we can see he's already going down onto the wood, and he's getting up to his 10 buildings. Once these 2 houses drop, that's going to give him that tier 1 and give him that 15% gathering on all resources, which really massively spikes your income. We can also see on Gully's side, he's got professional scouts. So if we check over on his vision, we can go over here. He's got a couple of scouts sitting around by the deer here. Oh no, he's gonna nick Falcon's deer. Oh, I love this play from him. This is, well, one way to go for it if your opponent goes for a greedy TC on the deer. Just get some scouts and just go and nick it yourself. So we've got another, let's say, 30 seconds on that, and he's going to be able to nick this food, and he's also pushing around the other deer as well. He will also be able to grab these, but they do move more slowly, so he's just going to have to be a little bit careful that we don't get a quick garrison and one of these scouts goes down. Even with the warrior scout's ability, it's going to be a little bit tricky there. No military buildings yet. We do have a barracks being built for Falcon there, so he can defend the cavalry, and we've got almost six scouts on the field ready to pick up the venison. There we go, and they are literally all coming out straight away to grab this deer and bring that food home. So who knew that Malians don't need to cow boom, they can just deer boom instead. So these guys are going to be heading home and denying quite a substantial amount of food, because if you think that's 350 per carcass, you guys can do the maths because you know I can't, but that's a lot of food that he's taking there. And this deer pack over on the back on Falcon's side is actually going to be really easy for him to nick as well, because when it's behind the TC and it's quite difficult to get, these two at the front are also in a perfect position that he can just rally all those scouts over and just nick all of that as well. So we don't see any cows at the moment, but they are coming into queue, and we see a lot of eco techs as well for Gully. So not looking for that super fast castle age, he's really trying to build his economy to compete with the Abbasid boom. And here we go. So there's another scout there waiting and a spear there to defend. So no eco techs as of yet for Falcon, but it looks like he's going to be pushing his way to the castle age to try and get a bit of a tech advantage. It's an interesting play because Malians don't really have heavy units, so most players would stick it out in feudal and try and really push on this. But maybe he's thinking that because of the scouts and the pro scouts, that Gully's going to be a little bit delayed, because we can see from his resources he doesn't have a huge amount in the bank, and he is going for all those eco techs, which is slowing down his income for now, which will then pay off later. Because always good to remember, these techs are always really good, but they do take time to pay off, because you have to earn the extra that you've spent on it and all that kind of mathematical things that I don't really know. But yeah, techs are good, they take time to pay off is basically the gist of the story. So Cowboom actually also going in the back, so his food income is going to be skyrocketing with all of this deer and with the cows being slowly built on the backside as well. We've got the military wing 1 minute away for Falcon, and we can see we've got double barracks and an archery range, so this is going to allow him to really pump out a lot of that infantry. And the good thing about the military wing in your castle age is you get boot camp and composite bows. Now obviously the Malians do have javelin throwers, so you do have to be really careful of those guys, and we can actually see that there is an archery range somewhere that's dropping out some archers. I don't like this from Gully. I think the javelins are just so strong. Unless there's a huge mass of spears where you really need that counter, getting the javelins, because their base damage is so high. If you think an archer is 5 plus 5, so that's 10. I'm pretty sure a javelin is like 8. So they do pretty much the same. They don't fire as well, but they do also counter the archers, which you know Falcon is going to be making. So I do kind of prefer that play. It's also nice to see we've got the eco techs coming in, which is definitely what you want to see when you're booming up, because the more villages you have, the quicker they pay off and the better value. We've also got the free camel riders, which you get as part of the military wing, and more production coming in. Gulams popping out and really going to start trying to pump those numbers up. But here we go, the spears trying to make sure they don't get taken out by those archers, and this is quite an aggressive push, as he knows that Falcon is in the castle age now. He doesn't have a lot of units to push, so he's going to have to be really careful he doesn't lose this mini mass, but they are going to catch this villager out on the other side, and Falcon in preemptively pulling away to make sure that villager doesn't bite the dust. So nice little bit of micro and a couple of Gulams to come and welcome them to the Abbasid Dynasty base. These guys are going to make quick work of a couple of feudal archers, I think, and the villager now going straight back to work. No rest for you. The camel riders also working on the sofa that popped out, and that purple debuff there from the camels, that cavalry unease, made swift work of that. If we take a look over at Gully's base, we can see he's going to be going for the Fulani Corral. You can see that he's leaving space for that landmark in the middle, and he's getting very, very close. Now, one thing I did want to mention are the warrior scouts are trying to take out the scouts over here. Let's make sure we follow this action as they're chasing those camels around, but into the infantry, and there we go, pulling away. So this debuff does make a massive difference to a lot of these units, so you've got to be really careful when you're going up against that. We can also see that the Gulams have pushed away these units, and the Grand Fulani Corral is in the center, ready to make that food income spike even more. Massively rushing that up, 15 villagers trying to get that up as quickly as possible so he can get those castle age upgrades to compete with the Abbasid boom. If we switch over to income per minute, once these villagers get back to work, we'll see it. Now, something that some of you may not have noticed, I've actually played against this myself. In the current patch, there is a problem that you can get the poison javelins even without the landmark, and I'm really happy to see that Gully isn't doing that, because it's definitely not intentional and they shouldn't be allowed to have those special javelins without going for that upgrade. So I really hope that he doesn't I'm not going to say abuse, but take advantage of that particular bug, because it does actually give the Malians a really big power spike in castle, because they can get the unique poison javelins, which are significantly better than the normal ones, as well as the cow boom. So it's nice to see that Gully is playing as an honourable Malian player and not trying to abuse some of that Malian cheese. If we take a look over at Falcon's side, he's got a nice little escort for his relics, picking these boys up. This is the second one to be picked up. We've already got one in the bag, and we can see another load of troops running over here. The Gulam's trying to catch that speedy little guy who's going to be grabbing another relic as well. So 3 contested relics picked up for Falcon already. There's one super far away that he might be able to sneak, but he's already got this one in the bag, defended at the back, as Composite Bodes is literally just about to finish in the House of Wisdom. There we go. So now those archers are going to have a massive attack speed boost, and this infantry composition from Falcon is now the numbers starting to really build. So I think the Gully is going to have to be really careful which units he goes for. There we go. Oh, the Wallalol not quite pulling it off, and the escort not strong enough to compete with this mass cavalry play here from Gully. So he has the mobility, and we can see that he's got the veteran sofas and the warrior scouts in there, which is quite a powerful composition and a huge amount of cavalry now. So this is where this mobility could potentially work in his favor, because he can raid like crazy, and Falcon's expecting that, and we can see some walls going up. Only one villager, and with the recent nerf to build speed of walls, this wall is going to take a really long time. So trying to defend that relic to make sure he can get his hands on that as well. But the cavalry coming in on the top side, that Camel's Unease debuffing all of those guys, looking very, very sick and poorly with that purple, and another Imam, there we go. They're coming across. I can never remember all the religious units' names. I wish they could call them all monk, but obviously I know historical accuracy, you know, that kind of thing. We've got a third pit down for Gully. He's gone for the super aggressive pit over here. Obviously better value for him because over here he won't be able to get the full surround, but this one is going to be much easier for Falcon to deny if he so wishes. We can also see that Gully is going for a bit of a blanket approach with his military techs as he's got his units chasing around this infantry like crazy. He's going for basically every military upgrade under the sun, and Falcon is being a lot more selective just with his +2 ranged attack and the +1 ranged defense. But all of these cavalry trying to deny those relics, getting that the mosque burned down, and that would reduce the income for Falcon. Obviously he is on the 2 TC, but Malians do like to boom up as well, but this horde of infantry is definitely looking very scary, and I think Gully's going to have to pull away and rethink his life choices at this stage of the game, trying to regroup to make sure he's not caught out. Raiding from different sides does make a big difference, but it does mean that if you can keep your units together, you can really start whittling down those numbers. Fairly even on both sides, and with the cavalry, it does look like Gully has much more map control and Falcon is having to play a little bit more defensively, but the longer this goes on with the TC, the better it's going to be for him. We can see we've got the poison arrows upgrade for those archers, so they are going to get all that poison damage, and we definitely need to see another mosque go down to drop that relic off. As cool as it looks just sitting around, I definitely think we want to be putting that down somewhere. There we go, another one in the back. Falcon reading my mind, so little bit of a farm transition going on in the back, and his food income is really starting to skyrocket now. But with the pro scouts and with the cow boom, actually it looks like Gully is keeping up with this 2 TC very, very well. The cavalry on the other side trying to get into the base, taking out the villager building that wall, so Falcon's going to have to get someone over there to finish that off. And cavalry on the backside, are they going to get caught by the Wallalo? No, not quite, just making it out in time, and then going to be taking the base. This is going to be a lot of damage to those villagers. He's going to have to be really careful, but the Sofa are going to get caught out by all this infantry, and so they're not going to be making it out alive. But 10 villagers down now, that's going to hurt the income of Falcon and the Abbasid, but his 2 TC will be able to get that pretty sharpish. And these guys now running into a dead end. They might get a couple of extra villagers, but they're not going to be making it out of there alive, as his other units on the front side, those poison archers, are getting pushed off by the Ghulams. With the armor, the extra armor that they have, and boot camp, they are able to tank that damage very, very well. So 230 health is a lot. So these guys trying to go for the villager kills, 14 down in total, and now Falcon's going to have to regroup on the front lines to make sure he's not caught out by the extra troops. But Gully feeding them in slowly. This is exactly what Falcon wants to see. It's feeding them in like this. It's going to allow his infantry to focus, and they're not A moved. Oh no! So they've just run straight into all those Ghulams and taken a huge amount of damage, and they're focus firing all of the crossbows to try and stop the counter to the Sofa, and those archers trying to kite now. But even with that poison damage, looking at this guy, he's losing a bit of health, but it's just not going to be enough, and it looks like we can see here that Falcon is spread out a little bit, so those archers are doing a lot of damage. Crossbows coming in the back line to try and take out those Sofa and stop them making their way back into the base, and Gully then pulling out to regroup. So at this top Conqueror level, both of these guys around 1800 ELO. You can see that the army control and knowing when to take the fights is really important. He's just saved a huge amount of his low health units, and if he can get those healed up, that's going to really help him come in for another fight. Falcon also regrouping around his mosque. I imagine there's some imams sitting around somewhere that are going to be able to heal that up. There's one chilling at the bottom that could go and make a little bit of a healing center. Doesn't have the culture wing, so doesn't have medical centers where his TCs would heal them, but you know, if we go to the Imperial Age, then we'll know. But at the moment, eco wise, it looks like both players are still fairly even with the villager difference because of the boom. And also we've got a sneaky TC. Oh dear. So with all that extra gold, Gully has dropped an extra TC, so he's actually going to be able to keep this difference actually the same, while he's also booming up with farms. He's got his cow boom, and he's got those pits, so this is where it potentially could start swinging more in his favor with the eco win. the cavalry on the back side trying to break through the wall, and there we go, Falcon pulling those villagers to heal them. As we can see, the swarm moving through the base, trying to get us around, some on the inside, some on the outside, and trying to make sure that not too many of these villagers go down, because now with that second TC for Gully, he's going to have to be really careful that he doesn't start losing this eco advantage he went for with the eco wing. The villagers going to be trying to build those walls back up to stop the sofa coming in and out, and there's a couple of them making their way into the farms and those lines, but going to be going down very quickly. So this is where if these guys can still get some damage, it's going to be really worth it for Gully, because they're basically trapped now and sacrificial. But the big fight on the front lines, infantry on infantry, cavalry coming in the back to try and get us around on those crossbows, and going to be taking a lot of damage. All of the spears then switching around, trying to get a hit on those sofa. All of the sofa being taken out on the back lines, and now the men-at-arms are focusing on those poison archers, and they swiftly melted those guys like crazy. So the classic archers and the gulams and spears with their boot camp are just absolutely shredding all of these units, and Gully's now feeding them in again drip by drip. He really needs to be careful to regroup back at home to make sure that he's not going to be losing the total number that he has, because this is something that if you lose a couple of these units here and there, this blob is just going to keep swarming through and just doing a ton of damage. If we take a little look at the top, 107 military units to 29. This is looking very, very scary for Gully at this stage, and with all that health, if he can stop the boom, we've got no food for Gully. Even with that income, he's spending as much as he can to get the units out. Very food heavy on his sofa. We can see they cost there we go, 120 per, so he's just not going to have the numbers at this stage. And the infantry are running in, there we go, breaking the cow boom, breaking that food, and all of the spears at the front, meaning the sofa just can't do anything. Gulam's running around under the TC fire just like it's a little tickle. They don't care about that. Who cares about a couple of towers and TCs when you've got boot camp and all of that armor? Spears coming around, making sure that the sofa can't get any hits onto those archers. The crossbows focusing on them as well, and even with all these TC fires and the towers, the Abbasid units are still holding out strong. Villager pull from Gully, knives out, the shanks are on the field, and they're trying to take out as many units as they can to keep their units alive, to keep their eco going. But even more reinforcements popping in on the back line from Falcon now, and Gully's villagers are doing their best. Even the wood villagers now being pulled, garrisoning and pulling out their shanks, ready to try and defend their homelands. Here we go, anything that they could do to keep them alive. And we can see the poison from the archers trying to take out the ranged at the back, but those Gulam have made it, and now they're swarming into the farms and around that cow boom. We can see them all over the base, chasing the villagers around like crazy, even with the warrior scouts on the backside. They're all over the cow boom over here, and now splitting off to try and idle the rest of this economy, destroying that cow boom because they only get the upgrade from the ranches. And so the food income for Falcon is going to be massively different to what we can see from Gully now. He's got no food, tons of gold. Even with a market, he's just got to try and get these units back up. Still over 50 for Falcon, even with that massive push. And now when you've got the 10 drip feeding them in like this, is just allowing Falcon to use that DPS that he's got to take them out one by one. And he's just sitting under these TCs, doesn't care about these units, flooding them across, and Gully calls it GG. What an amazing match. A huge Abbasid swarm, and the cow boom goes down. I hope you've enjoyed this Conqueror level match, and I will see you next time for more action.